Although we rarely contemplate our death, you should probably take 5 minutes to consider who will get your super if you die. So right now I'm going to show you who does get your super if you die, and one simple action you can take to make sure it ends up in the right hands. Hi there, I'm Chris Strano, the founder of SUPERGUY, the place where Australians go to maximise their super and build their own retirement plan. If you're new here, make sure that you click the subscribe button. There's also some links below this video that you might find useful. Also, if you get value from this video, click the thumbs up button. It's a little act that makes a big difference. Remember, this is general information only, and you should consider whether it's appropriate to your personal needs and seek professional, financial, and legal advice before acting on it. Let's dive in. Have you ever wondered who gets your super when you die? Arranging how your assets will pass on to your loved ones is usually not a high priority for most people. I don't know, maybe that says a lot about our optimism. But a common misconception is that if you have a will, you've planned for your death and your family will be looked after, and a will determines who gets your super. But a will only addresses assets or investments that are owned in your own name. It does not cover any assets owned within other entities such as a company, a trust, or superannuation, because superannuation is also a trust with its own trustee. And just to clarify, throughout this video, when I use the term super, I am referring to both a superannuation accumulation account or a superannuation income stream. So when I say super, it's collectively covering both of those accounts. So if you die, your family lawyer will read out the will and tell your family who gets what. But what about superannuation? Who gets your super? And this is very important because by the time most of us pass away, hopefully later in life, statistically, our biggest asset, maybe apart from the family home, will be our superannuation. In fact, our home will often be owned in joint names, maybe with a spouse or a partner. So when you pass away, ownership of your home transfers immediately to your surviving spouse, and the will is irrelevant. So while a will is very important, for many people, it really only deals with, maybe a few grand in your bank account, possibly your wedding ring, your grandmother's rosary beads. Meanwhile, there's $500,000 sitting in super and you haven't even mentioned who gets that. And remember, you might also own life insurances within super, which needs to get paid to someone. That's not dealt with in the will either. So to make sure your super and any life insurances within super is paid to the right person or people when you die, you need a will that deals solely with your super. And this superannuation will is not called a will, it's called a death benefit nomination. A superannuation death benefit nomination tells the trustee of your superannuation who you would like your super to be paid to if you die. You need to know though that your super can only be paid to certain people when you die, and these people are called superannuation dependents. So a superannuation dependent is defined as your spouse or de facto spouse, your child, or a person who you were in an interdependency relationship with at the time of your death. So this is basically someone you live with, you have a close relationship with, where one or both of you provide the other with financial, domestic, and personal support. You can only nominate your super to be paid to someone who fits within one of these definitions: a spouse, a child, or a person you have an interdependency relationship with. So for example, your super can't be paid to your parents when you die, unless you were considered to be in an interdependency relationship with your parents at the time of your death. I hope that makes sense. All right, so there's two main types of death benefit nominations that you can make. You can make a binding death benefit nomination or a non-binding death benefit nomination. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these in this video. I'll go through that in a different video, but basically a binding nomination is binding on the trustee, which means they must pay your super exactly how you've asked them to in that binding nomination. Whereas a non-binding nomination is more of like a wish. So you're telling the trustee how you would like your super to be paid if you die, but you're leaving the ultimate discretion up to the trustee based on what your relationships were at the time of your death. And look, there's a number of reasons why a binding nomination might suit some people and a non-binding nomination might suit others. But again, that's beyond the scope of this video. Anyway, you're probably wondering exactly how you make a binding death benefit nomination. Well, I'm going to show you an example, and as I often do, I'm going to use Australian Super as an example for no other reason than you've probably heard of Australian Super, and it's a reasonably easy website to navigate. I'm not suggesting that I think Australian Super is good, bad or ugly. I'm just using this website and this super platform as an example, that's all. Okay, so it doesn't usually cost money to put in place a binding death benefit nomination. They're available through your superannuation fund. You fill out the form, you complete it, submit it, and it's done. The only time a binding nomination might cost money is if you have a self-managed super fund and you need an administrator to complete the form for you or build one, which is basically an administrator is kind of like an accountant who helps run your super fund. Then it might cost money. But for most super funds, you're not going to be paying for a binding death benefit nomination. So where do you find them? Well, we're looking at the Australian Super website now, and it's quite simple. If we go to Superannuation, you'll see Superannuation forms and fact sheets. We'll click on that. Pretty much use the same directive on the Australian Super website as most other superannuation fund websites to find where it is. It's usually going to be under forms and things like that. So if we go down to forms, we're going to click on forms. We don't want fact sheets or guides or disclosure statements. We're looking for a form to complete. So we load some more forms. There's a bunch of forms up here, and you'll see as I scroll down, we've got binding death benefit nomination form. So we click on download, and a binding death benefit nomination will usually be in PDF form. So we open up that and just have a quick look at what it looks like. It's not a long form, it's not a big one. It'll tell you a bit of information about what a binding nomination is, how long it lasts. So in this case, that's a good point actually. You can see that it says binding death benefit nomination. So maybe Australian Super don't offer non-binding death benefit nominations. Each super fund's going to be different. Some will only offer non-binding, some binding, some non-binding, and binding. It all depends on what they offer. So if we scroll down past all the information and a wasted page, you'll see here it's quite simple. You fill in your personal details here. You nominate the person or people who you want to receive your death benefit and what relationship they are to you. So full name, address, and the percentage of your balance. So it's always done on a percentage. Obviously, the dollar value of your super or pension account will change. So therefore, most death benefit nominations are done on a percentage basis. You might do, if you have 2 kids, 50-50. If you have a spouse, you might do 100%. If you have 4 kids, you might do 25% each or whatever. Then it asks you if you want to cancel any current nominations in place. So you might have an existing one and you want this one to override it. Or you might not know if you've got an existing one, but you do want this one to override it. Tick that box or cross that box. Signature. And a very important part of binding death benefit nominations or any death benefit nominations is that there needs to be witnesses. So it needs to be witnessed with your signature by 2 witnesses and the full names of the witnesses. And that's it. You print off that, you send it in, and now you have a binding death benefit nomination in place. When you get your superannuation statement or when you log online to your superannuation account, you should be able to navigate through and have a look at who the nominations are or what type of nominations you have and who the beneficiaries are. It'll all be on your statement and online when you check your account balance. So it's as simple as that. But remember, a binding nomination may have an expiry date. It's usually valid for 3 years, so you might need to update it every 3 years. A non-binding nomination does not usually have an expiry date, but you need to remember to review it regularly, especially if there's a big change in your life. So if if a new child comes into the family, a marriage, a divorce or separation, a child turns age 18, these are a few examples of situations where you would need to review and possibly update your superannuation death benefit nomination. Hey, and your will for that matter. And what happens if you don't submit a death benefit nomination to your super fund? Then what? Well, usually what will happen is the super fund trustee will contact the executor of your estate, and that's the person who is responsible for distributing your assets when you die. It's usually someone you trust, like a spouse or a sibling or whoever you've nominated in your will. So the trustee will contact the executor, maybe even your family, to determine who is eligible to receive your super and who should. Otherwise, they'll just transfer your super to your estate, and it will, and only then will it be paid out as per your will. So only if the trustee decides just to make things easy, transfer your super to your estate, then it will be distributed based on whatever your will says. Okay, finally, the only time the payment of your super is not determined by a binding death benefit nomination is if all of your retirement savings are in a pension account and that pension account is a reversionary pension. A reversionary pension is a pension that automatically reverts to the person that you nominated to be the reversionary beneficiary when you die. So this is a nomination that you would have made or can make when a pension income stream is first established. You can't add to it at a later date. It has to be done. You have to nominate a reversionary beneficiary when you first start an income stream. If you do that and you pass away, a binding nomination becomes irrelevant and that pension continues to be paid to the reversionary beneficiary. Therefore, because the pension automatically reverts and converts and continues to be paid to another person, such as a spouse, when you die, then any death benefit nominations become irrelevant. All right, what else is there? If you have a self-managed super fund, death benefit nominations and reversionary pensions work exactly the same way. So even though you might be the trustee of your self-managed super fund and the member, you still need to submit a death benefit nomination to the SMSF and keep it on file. A few other quick things, tax on death benefits. Depending on who your super is paid to, there may be tax implications. That's for another video. How is the death benefit paid? Well, depending on who it's paid to, you or maybe even the beneficiary might be able to choose whether it's paid as a lump sum or an income stream or a combination. Again, these are the things that will be discussed in another video. The purpose of this video is simply to make you aware of who gets your super when you die. And I hope it helped. Until next time, stay super. So there you have it. Now you know what you have to do right now to make sure that your super ends up with the right person. If you've learned something new from this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this. If you want more exclusive superannuation tips, head over to superguy.com.au and sign up to my newsletter for free. We have plenty more videos on superannuation and retirement planning in the Superguy Hub, including stacks of tutorials, super strategies and case studies to help boost your super and plan your retirement. So go to superguyhub.com.au, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one.